betrayal and hurt, few experiences cut deeper. When someone cheats on you or causes you pain, the question starts swirling. Why would they do this? What did I do to deserve it? These moments of anguish feel personal, shattering your trust and sense of stability. But what if I told you there's a way to make sense of it all? Through the lens of Stoicism, you'll discover that every act of harm stems from clear, identifiable reasons. The Stoics teach us a timeless truth. While we cannot control the actions of others, we can master our reactions. Understanding the root causes behind betrayal and hurt doesn't just soothe the sting, it empowers you to rise above the pain, to reclaim your peace and perspective. Today, we'll uncover 3 core reasons why someone cheats or hurts you, exploring the deeper motivations behind their behavior. We'll also examine practical Stoic strategies to help you navigate these moments with strength and serenity. Stay with us until the end to uncover how Stoicism can transform your pain into a profound opportunity for growth. If you find this message meaningful, show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing to Victory Stoic. Declare your commitment to peace by commenting below. I choose strength and understanding. Let's begin. Reason 1. Inner struggle. Number 1. They are hurt inside. Hurt people hurt people. It's a truth that's as painful as it is undeniable. When someone cheats on you, betrays you, or causes you pain, the real reason often has nothing to do with you. Instead, it stems from their unresolved inner wounds. Take David, for example. David grew up in a household where love was conditional, his worth was tied to his achievements, and mistakes were met with harsh criticism. As an adult, he carries this unresolved pain into his relationships. He fears rejection, feels unworthy of love, and sabotages his connection with others before they can hurt him. One day, he cheats on his partner, not because of their flaws, but because he's terrified of vulnerability and doesn't know how to handle it. Then there's Lisa. She's a manager at a successful company, but constantly feels like an imposter, haunted by childhood feelings of inadequacy. She projects her insecurities onto her team, lashing out at employees who remind her of qualities she dislikes in herself. Her sharp words hurt them deeply, yet the real battle is happening within her. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion. There is never any need to get worked up or to trouble your soul about things you can't control." David's betrayal and Lisa's anger feel personal, but they're not about the people they hurt. They're about their struggles with fear, self-worth, and unhealed wounds. Recognizing this truth doesn't erase the pain of being hurt. When David's partner discovered his infidelity, she was devastated. When Lisa's team faced her constant criticism, they grew resentful. But understanding that their actions stemmed from inner turmoil allowed those they hurt to regain perspective. The partner, instead of internalizing the betrayal, thought, "This is his pain, not mine. His choices reflect him, not my value." The employees, instead of lashing back, sought ways to assert boundaries while empathizing with Lisa's struggle. Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you but how you react to it that matters. You cannot heal another person's inner struggle, and you shouldn't let it define you. Their actions, as painful as they are a reflection of their unhealed wounds, not of your worth. Understanding this doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but it gives you the clarity to step away from their chaos and focus on your peace. Their storm is theirs to weather. You, however, can choose to walk away into calmer skies. Number 2. They are controlled by negative emotions. When someone hurts you, it's easy to think their actions are calculated and deliberate. But often, they're not acting out of logic or intent, they're acting out of emotion. Negative emotions like jealousy, anger, or frustration can take hold of a person, clouding their judgment and pushing them to act in ways they might later regret. Imagine Emily and her best friend Sarah. Emily gets a promotion at work, one she's worked hard for, but instead of celebrating with her, Sarah grows distant. She starts making passive-aggressive comments, dismissing Emily's success. Why? Sarah isn't inherently cruel, but jealousy has taken root. She feels inadequate in comparison, and rather than confronting her feelings, she lashes out, hurting Emily in the process. Or think about Jake, who's struggling with mounting frustrations at home and work. One day, during a minor disagreement with his partner, he explodes in anger, saying things he doesn't mean. His outburst isn't about the argument, it's the accumulation of unaddressed emotions spilling over. Marcus Aurelius said, "How much more harmful are the consequences of anger and grief than the circumstances that arouse them in us?" The emotions themselves are fleeting, but when they're allowed to control us, they can lead to long-lasting damage. Negative emotions are like a wildfire. A small spark, an insecurity, a disappointment, or a fear can quickly grow out of control, consuming not only the person feeling it, but also those around them. When people are caught in these emotional storms, they lose sight of reason and act impulsively, often causing harm to others. Understanding this truth doesn't excuse the behavior, but it can help you see it for what it is, a momentary lapse, not a reflection of your worth. Epictetus teaches, "Remember, it is not the person who abuses or strikes you who insults you, but your opinion that these things are insulting." Number 3. They are seeking release in the wrong way. Some people don't know how to face their inner struggles. Instead of confronting their pain, they look for escape routes, often at the expense of those around them. This misguided search for relief leads them to lash out, betray, or harm others, not because they want to, but because they don't know any better. Take Ryan, for instance. He's in a difficult season of life. His career is stagnant, his finances are tight, and he feels like he's failing at everything. Instead of dealing with these issues, Ryan chooses a reckless escape. One night, at a bar, he gets caught up in the excitement of flirting with someone new. It leads to an affair, not because he doesn't care for his partner, but because he's desperate to feel alive again, even if just for a fleeting moment. His betrayal isn't about her. He attempts to mask his pain with temporary excitement. Or picture Sarah, who's overwhelmed by the monotony of her daily life. She feels unappreciated at home, uninspired at work, and stuck in a cycle she can't break. One weekend during a trip with friends, she drinks too much and ends up crossing a line with someone she barely knows. For a moment, it feels exhilarating, like she's escaped her dull reality. But when the thrill fades, she's left with guilt and an even heavier burden than before. Seneca wisely observed, "Every guilty person is his hangman." These escape attempts often bring more pain, not relief. Ryan and Sarah didn't resolve their struggles, they compounded them. Their actions didn't bring true freedom, only fleeting distraction. When people seek release in the wrong way, they're like someone trying to douse a fire with gasoline. The thrill of distraction might seem like a quick fix, but it only worsens the damage. The Stoics teach us to recognize the root causes of such behavior without excusing it. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Those who hurt others in their search for relief are often trapped in negative thought patterns that prevent them from finding real solutions. If you've been hurt by someone's reckless attempt to escape their pain, it's vital to understand this. Their betrayal is a reflection of their turmoil, not your value. Respond with clarity, not anger, and protect your peace. Their storm doesn't need to become your chaos. Remember, as Epictetus said, no one can hurt you without your consent. Their actions may sting, but you have the power to choose growth over bitterness, calm over turmoil. Let their misguided search for release remain their burden, not yours. When Sarah lashes out at Emily, it's not because Emily did something wrong. It's because Sarah's jealousy has taken over. When Jake yells at his partner, it's not because they deserve it. It's because Jake is overwhelmed by emotions he hasn't learned to manage. The Stoics remind us that we cannot control the emotions of others, but we can control how we respond. Instead of retaliating, pause and recognize the root of their actions. Their anger, jealousy, or frustration belongs to them. It is not yours to carry. By stepping back and refusing to be drawn into their emotional storm, you protect your peace. And sometimes, your calm response can even help them find their way back to reason. As Seneca wisely said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Let their chaos be their challenge, not yours. Number 4. They fear vulnerability. Some people hurt others not out of malice, but because they fear what it means to open up. Vulnerability feels like weakness to them, a threat to their carefully constructed image of strength or independence. To avoid this perceived danger, they build walls to protect themselves. Unfortunately, these walls often take the form of betrayal, manipulation, or avoidance, driving away the very people who care for them. Imagine Jack, a man who's struggling with financial problems but hides his stress from his partner. He believes that admitting his struggles would make him look incapable. Instead of sharing his burden, Jack becomes irritable and distant. He snaps at small things and avoids conversations, leaving his partner feeling shut out and hurt. His behavior isn't driven by hatred or disregard. It's fueled by his fear of being perceived as weak. Or think of Mia, a friend who consistently downplays her struggles, even when she desperately needs help. She avoids opening up because she worries her friends will judge her or see her differently. Instead of reaching out, she distances herself, leaving her friends feeling unimportant or pushed away. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Those who fear vulnerability often overestimate the threat of being open, turning it into a monster in their minds. This fear of vulnerability doesn't just hurt them, it hurts those around them. Their reluctance to share creates misunderstandings, and their defensive behaviors, whether it's anger, avoidance, or manipulation, push people away. They crave connection but sabotage it by refusing to let others see their true selves. Epictetus reminds us, "He who is not master of himself is a slave to circumstances." Those who fear vulnerability are often controlled by their insecurities, unable to break free from the belief that openness equals weakness. Understanding this can help you navigate relationships with such individuals. Their behavior may sting, but recognizing that it stems from fear rather than malice can soften your perspective. If possible, gently encourage them to share by creating a safe, non-judgmental space. If Jack's partner said, "I'm here for you, no matter what. Let's face this together," it could help him feel less afraid to open up. However, the Stoics also teach us to set boundaries. As Seneca advised, you must know for whom you are enduring pain. If someone's fear of vulnerability consistently harms you without change, it's vital to protect your peace. Their fear may be deep, but your well-being matters too. Let their walls remain their struggle, and choose to nurture your strength and connections with those who embrace vulnerability and authenticity. Number 5, they are controlled by regret. Regret is a silent tyrant, chaining people to the mistakes of their past and distorting their present. Instead of learning from their errors, some allow regret to consume them, letting unresolved guilt and shame define their actions. This unprocessed pain often manifests as anger, bitterness, or reckless behavior, causing harm to those who least deserve it. Imagine Daniel, a man haunted by a decision he made years ago that cost him a close friendship. Instead of confronting his guilt and making amends, Daniel becomes defensive and irritable whenever anyone brings up trust or loyalty. His inability to forgive himself fuels his anger, which he directs at those around him. Or think of Julia, who regrets prioritizing her career over family for much of her life. Now, as she tries to reconnect, her guilt prevents her from being present. She overcompensates with lavish gifts but avoids meaningful conversations, leaving her loved ones feeling confused and distant. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Yet for those controlled by regret, the obstacle, guilt, becomes an unmovable wall. They fail to see that regret can be a teacher, not a tormentor, if faced with courage and honesty. Regret doesn't just harm the individual, it spreads like a ripple, affecting everyone in their orbit. Daniel's family becomes wary of his temper, never sure what might trigger his defensiveness. Julia's children long for her presence, not her gifts, but her guilt blinds her to what truly matters. The Stoics teach us that while the past cannot be changed, it need not control us. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Those who carry regret must learn to shift their focus from what cannot be undone to what can still be achieved. For those dealing with someone controlled by regret, patience and boundaries are essential. You might gently remind them, the past is behind us, but what we do now matters most. However, it's also important to protect yourself if your unresolved guilt begins to harm you. Seneca wisely noted, "A guilty person is never really free." Until someone learns to confront and release their regret, they will remain trapped in a cycle of self-sabotage and projection. Their inability to forgive themselves is not your burden to bear. You can show compassion, but you must also prioritize your peace. Let their journey of healing remain theirs, while you continue to live with clarity and strength, unshackled by the past. Reason 2, selfishness. Number 6, they prioritize their interests over your feelings. Selfishness is the root cause of many betrayals and hurts. When someone acts selfishly, they place their desires, needs, or goals above the well-being of those around them. They don't intend to cause harm, they simply don't care enough to avoid it. Their focus is entirely on themselves, and in their narrow perspective, your feelings are just collateral damage. Consider Alex, who is in a committed relationship but chooses to cheat. For Alex, the thrill of an affair is more important than the trust his partner has placed in him. He knows it could hurt her, but that thought doesn't weigh heavily enough to stop him. His desire for excitement and validation eclipses any consideration of the consequences for his partner. Or picture Olivia, a manager who constantly takes credit for her team's hard work. She isn't malicious, she just wants to be seen as the star of the company. In her pursuit of recognition, she disregards the frustration and resentment building within her team. Her selfish need to shine blinds her to the damage she's causing to her colleagues' morale and trust. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A wrongdoer is often someone who has left something undone, not always someone who has done something." Selfish people don't always intend harm, they simply fail to consider anyone but themselves. Their actions aren't premeditated cruelty, they're the byproduct of a mindset that prioritizes me over we. Selfishness often stems from insecurity. Alex might cheat because he's seeking validation he doesn't feel within himself. Olivia might take credit because she fears being overlooked. Their actions are driven by an internal void they're trying to fill, even if it means harming others along the way. Understanding this truth doesn't excuse their behavior, but it can help you process it. Their selfishness isn't about their worth, it's about their inability to look beyond their desires. The Stoics remind us to focus on what we can control. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." When faced with selfish behavior, instead of retaliating or becoming consumed by hurt, choose to act with integrity and self-respect. Set boundaries to protect yourself from further harm, and let their selfishness remain their burden, not yours. Imagine if Alex's partner decides, "His choices don't define my value. I deserve honesty and respect, and I will walk away to protect my peace." Or if Olivia's team begins to assert themselves, calmly confronting her about the credit stealing while continuing to excel in their work. These responses shift power away from selfish individuals and reclaim it for those affected. Selfishness is a short-sighted way of living. The Stoics teach us to live with broader perspectives, considering the ripple effects of our actions. By understanding the roots of selfishness, you can rise above it, maintain your peace, and refuse to let someone else's narrow focus disrupt your clarity. Number 7, they lack respect for you. Betrayal and hurt often stem from a lack of respect. No matter how kind, supportive, or exceptional you are, some people simply fail to value the relationship or recognize your worth. This truth is a bitter pill to swallow, especially when you've done everything right. But life, as unpredictable as it is, often teaches us that even the best intentions and efforts can't shield us from being hurt. Imagine Lisa, a dedicated and loving partner. She's always there for her significant other, supporting his dreams, forgiving his mistakes, and being his anchor in difficult times. Yet, one day, she discovers he's been unfaithful. It's easy for Lisa to spiral into self-blame. What did I do wrong? Was I not enough? But the truth is, Lisa's betrayal is not about her. It's about her partner's failure to respect the bond they shared, not her effort or worth. Or consider Jake, a high-performing employee who consistently goes above and beyond for his company. When layoffs come, Jake is blindsided. His hard work and loyalty are disregarded as he's let go without explanation. It's not because Jake didn't excel. It's because the company didn't respect the value he brought. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These words remind us that respect, or the lack thereof, often has more to do with the other person's priorities, insecurities, or distractions than with our behavior. The reality is that betrayal and hurt are part of life, not because of your shortcomings, but because life is filled with countless variables. A partner might cheat because they're chasing something they think they're missing. A colleague might undermine you because they see you as a competition. These actions are reflections of their character, not your value. Seneca wisely observed, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." When someone disrespects you, the initial sting can make you question everything about yourself. But understanding that their actions stem from their flaws, not yours, can help you detach from the pain. The Stoics teach us to remain steady amidst life's chaos. Epictetus said, "Know first who you are and then adorn yourself accordingly." When others fail to respect you, it's essential to hold on to your dignity and self-worth. Let their disrespect be a reflection of their character, not a measure of yours. Yes, betrayal hurts, and it's okay to feel the pain, but don't let it diminish your light. Whether in love, work, or friendships, your kindness and effort are not wasted. They define who you are. And when life throws its inevitable curveballs, remember, you have the strength to rise, no matter how others fail to respect what you bring. Number 8. They are drawn to short-term desires. The allure of short-term gratification is powerful. For some, it's irresistible, a shiny object promising excitement, escape, or fulfillment, but only for a fleeting moment. The tragedy? They chase these momentary highs without realizing the cost. Their actions, betrayals, lies, or impulsive decisions, are driven by a hunger for instant rewards that can never sustain them. Picture a gambler at the table, throwing away their savings for the thrill of one more hand. Or a partner who seeks an affair, not out of hatred for their relationship, but because the fleeting passion offers an escape from routine. These are not decisions rooted in reason or long-term thinking. They are the desperate grasp of someone blinded by the here and now. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is short-lived must not be valued too highly." But for those caught in the grip of short-term desires, this wisdom is lost. They see only the immediate reward, not the long-term damage they're sowing. Take Emma, who lies to her partner about a minor mistake. At the moment, it feels easier than admitting fault. But over time, the lies pile up, creating a fragile foundation that will eventually collapse. Or think of David, who, frustrated with his job, lashes out at a colleague, feeling a brief release of anger, but burning bridges that could have supported him later. Those who act on short-term desires fail to grasp a simple truth. Life is a marathon, not a sprint. The quick fixes they chase, whether it's an affair, a lie, or a fleeting thrill, can never nourish them for the long journey. They are like someone drinking salt water to quench their thirst. The more they indulge, the emptier they become. Seneca said, "You act like mortals in what you fear, and like immortals in what you desire." Immature individuals don't recognize the impermanence of short-term pleasures. They believe the excitement will last, only to find it vanishes as quickly as it came. Mature individuals, however, see through the illusion. They understand that enduring happiness comes not from indulgence, but from building a life of meaning, stability, and integrity. When someone deceives or hurts you for short-term gain, they reveal their inability to see beyond the moment. The Stoics teach us to rise above such behavior. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Let their short-sighted actions remain theirs. Focus on cultivating your long-term peace and values. Short-term desires are fleeting, but the damage they cause can linger. Recognize their behavior for what it is, a sign of immaturity, not a reflection of your worth. And as they chase their fading thrills, stand firm in your wisdom, building a life that's rich, steady, and enduring. Reason 3, ignorance. Number 9, they don't realize their actions are hurtful. Ignorance is one of the most common yet overlooked reasons why people hurt others. Some individuals don't act out of malice or cruelty. They simply lack the awareness to understand the impact of their actions. Their limited perspective blinds them to the ripple effects of their behavior, leaving others to bear the pain they unintentionally cause. Imagine a friend, Clara, who constantly interrupts you during conversations. She doesn't do it to belittle you. She genuinely believes she's adding value by sharing her thoughts. Clara isn't malicious, but her lack of awareness about how dismissive it feels is causing harm to the relationship. Or take John, a manager who piles extra work onto his team without realizing how overwhelmed they already are. He assumes they'll manage, failing to see how his actions are pushing them toward burnout. His ignorance isn't intentional, but it's no less damaging. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? Often, those who act out of ignorance are simply blind to the perspectives of others because they've never paused to reflect. The danger of ignorance is that it perpetuates harm without accountability. Clara doesn't realize her interruptions erode trust. John doesn't understand that his team's performance is declining because of him. Their actions create hurt, but their ignorance prevents them from acknowledging or addressing it. However, ignorance isn't an excuse, it's a call to action. Epictetus said, "A man can't learn what he thinks he already knows." Some people remain ignorant because they're unwilling to learn, while others are simply unaware that they need to. The Stoics teach us to approach ignorance with both understanding and boundaries. When someone hurts you because they're blind to the consequences of their actions, you have two options: educate them or protect yourself. Imagine if Clara's friend said, "I value our conversations, but when you interrupt me, it makes me feel unheard." Or if John's team expressed, "We need to talk about the workload. Many of us are struggling to keep up." These moments of honest dialogue can spark awareness, but only if the ignorant party is willing to listen. If they remain unwilling, the Stoics urge us to let go of what we cannot control. Their ignorance is not your responsibility. Your priority is to safeguard your peace and well-being. Ignorance is not inherently malicious, but its effects can be just as painful. By recognizing it for what it is, you can choose how to respond, with patience, clarity, and the wisdom to walk away if needed. After all, as Seneca said, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Don't waste your energy on those who refuse to grow. Instead, focus on nurturing your understanding and peace. Number 10. Flawed values drive them. Once upon a time, in a small but bustling kingdom, there lived a kind and gentle girl named Ella. She had a heart full of warmth and a nature as pure as the morning dew. But Ella's life was not easy. After losing her beloved father, she was left under the care of her stepmother and two stepsisters, Anastasia and Drizella. Anastasia and Drizella were not born cruel. In fact, as children, they had moments of laughter and joy, much like Ella. But their mother, a woman consumed by ambition and bitterness, raised them in a way that twisted their perception of the world. "Never let others overshadow you," their mother would say, planting seeds of envy in their hearts. "People will only respect you if they fear you." Under her guidance, the two sisters grew to believe that kindness was a weakness and that the only way to succeed was to dominate others. They began to measure their worth not by who they were, but by how much they could take from others. When Ella came into their lives, her gentle nature became a mirror, reflecting their insecurities and flawed values. Instead of seeing her as a sister, they saw her as a threat. They mocked her simplicity, dismissed her dreams, and turned her into a servant in her own home. But here's the truth. Anastasia and Drizella weren't inherently evil. They were victims of their upbringing, shaped by a mother who taught them to fear vulnerability and despise compassion. Their cruelty wasn't born from malice, it was born from ignorance. Marcus Aurelius once said, "People exist for the sake of one another. Teach them then, or bear with them." Ella understood this wisdom intuitively. She knew that Anastasia and Drizella's actions stemmed from the values they were taught, not from who they truly were. One fateful night, as Ella's stepsisters mocked her for wanting to attend the royal ball, she didn't respond with anger. Instead, she whispered to herself, "Their bitterness is not mine to carry. I will not let their darkness extinguish my light." With the help of her fairy godmother, Ella went to the ball, danced with the prince, and found her place in the world. But more importantly, she chose to rise above the flawed values of her stepfamily. The Stoics teach us that people who harm others often do so out of ignorance, shaped by flawed beliefs. Epictetus reminds us, men are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. Anastasia and Drizella's cruelty was a reflection of their mother's teachings, not Ella's worth. And just as Ella chose kindness and courage, so too can we choose to respond to flawed values with strength, understanding, and the wisdom to protect our peace. In the end, it wasn't Ella's revenge that transformed her life. It was her refusal to let their ignorance define her. Like Ella, we can recognize flawed values for what they are, rise above them, and build a life rooted in truth, compassion, and resilience. Number 11. They are searching for identity. Some people hurt others not out of cruelty, but because they are lost within themselves. Without a clear sense of who they are or what they value, they wander through life like travelers without a map, stumbling from one impulse to another. In their search for identity, they often leave confusion and hurt in their wake, not out of intent, but because of the instability they carry within. Imagine Rachel, a young professional who constantly switches jobs. To her colleagues, she seems ambitious but unreliable, leaving projects unfinished and making promises she doesn't keep. In reality, Rachel is desperately searching for a career that aligns with who she is, but her lack of clarity causes frustration for everyone around her. Or think of Sam, who struggles to maintain consistency in his relationship. One day he's loving and attentive, the next he's distant and indifferent. His partner feels confused and emotionally exhausted, not realizing that Sam's behavior isn't about her. It's about his internal struggle to define what he truly wants and who he wants to be. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Yet, for those lost in their search for identity, this wisdom is elusive. They are so consumed by their need to figure out who they are that they fail to consider the impact of their actions on others. Their impulsive decisions, whether it's breaking commitments, starting affairs, or making inconsistent choices, stem from their inner confusion, not malice. They experiment with different behaviors or relationships, hoping to find something that feels like home. But this trial and error approach often comes at a cost to those closest to them. The Stoics teach us to approach such situations with both understanding and boundaries. Epictetus reminds us, know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. For those seeking identity, this clarity is what they lack, and until they find it, their actions will remain unpredictable. If you're dealing with someone like Rachel or Sam, remember that their inconsistency reflects their inner struggle, not their worth. You might say, "I care about you, but I need stability and clarity in our relationship. Let me know when you're ready to provide that." This approach acknowledges their journey while protecting your peace. Seneca wisely observed, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." Until they commit to understanding themselves, those searching for identity will continue to drift, often leaving collateral damage. While you can empathize with their confusion, their journey to self-discovery is theirs alone. You cannot complete it for them, nor should you allow it to destabilize your own life. Focus on your clarity and values and let their search remain theirs to undertake. Number 12. They are trapped in patterns of trauma. Trauma from the past can become an invisible chain, binding people to destructive behaviors they can't seem to break. Those who grew up in environments marked by betrayal, neglect, or dysfunction often unconsciously recreate these patterns in their relationships. To them, chaos is familiar, even if it's harmful. Imagine David, a man who repeatedly cheats on his partner. It's not because he lacks love for them, but because he grew up in a household where infidelity was normalized. His parents' disregard for loyalty shaped his understanding of relationships, leaving him with a skewed perception of what commitment means. When conflict arises, David instinctively falls into the same patterns he witnessed as a child, perpetuating a cycle he's never questioned. Now consider Sarah, who speaks harshly to her colleagues and friends, her tone cutting and her empathy seemingly absent. Her behavior isn't rooted in malice, it stems from her childhood. Sarah's parents, wrapped up in their narcissistic tendencies, neglected her emotional needs. Left to fend for herself, Sarah learned to suppress vulnerability and approach life with bluntness, unaware of how her words might wound others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone is mistaken, teach them gently and show them their error. But if you cannot, then blame yourself. Or no one." Those trapped in patterns of trauma are often mistaken, not by choice but by conditioning. Their actions are less about intentional harm and more about repeating what they know. Trauma, however, is not a free pass for harmful behavior. While understanding its roots fosters compassion, it also highlights the importance of accountability. Those like David and Sarah must recognize their patterns and take steps to heal, or their unresolved pain will continue to ripple outward, hurting those around them. The Stoics remind us to approach such people with clarity and boundaries. Epictetus said, "A man can't learn what he thinks he already knows." If someone trapped in trauma refuses to see their behavior as harmful, they cannot change. For those on the receiving end, protecting your peace is paramount. You might say to Sarah, "I value honesty, but I also value kindness. The way you speak makes it hard for me to connect." Or to David, "I understand your past, but it doesn't excuse your choices. I need trust in our relationship." Seneca observed, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." Healing from trauma requires breaking old patterns to create new ones. Those who choose to confront their pain can rewrite their stories, but those who don't remain trapped. Remember, their trauma is not your responsibility. You can offer empathy and understanding, but their healing is their journey. Protect your boundaries, nurture your growth, and let their struggle remain theirs to overcome. Conclusion: betrayal and hurt, while deeply painful, are rarely without cause. By understanding the three main reasons behind them, ignorance, selfishness, and inner struggle, you gain not only clarity but also the power to rise above these experiences. These insights, drawn from Stoic philosophy, equip you to navigate such challenges with resilience, compassion, and a renewed sense of self. If you found this article meaningful, show your support by hitting like, share, and subscribe to Victory Stoic. Let's spread the wisdom of self-awareness and growth together. And don't forget to leave a comment below with the affirmation, "I choose tranquility and growth," to commit yourself to living with strength and positivity every day. Thank you for being here. Remember, by applying Stoic principles, you can transform pain into wisdom and chaos into calm. See you in the next video on Victory Stoic, where we'll continue exploring ways to build a life of balance and purpose. Until then, stay mindful, stay strong, and keep growing.